guys are all doing well and had a really nice weekend and had a great Mother's Day with your moms and grandmas and whoever else is special to you in your life that has that mother figure. We are jumping right into the metric system starting today, and I wanted to start a little differently. The metric system can be a little tricky, but once you kind of see it, sort of like place value, it becomes a lot easier for you to understand. So I wanted to start, instead of with our Envision video today, I wanted to start you guys off with a quick brain pop video. So we are going to watch that together. Make sure you pay extra close attention and let's go.
Sorry, all they had left in the fridge was chocolate milk. Hey, what gives? King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk? Yes, I know it's a metric thing, but what does that have to do with anything? Dear Moby, help. There are too many metric units. How can I remember them all? Thanks, Jorge. Oh, hi, Jorge. You know, it might seem like there are a lot of units in the metric system. That's the decimal-based measurement system used by most of the world. But if you look closely at these units of length, you'll see that they're really just variations on the same unit. That's one of the beauties of the metric system. You can scale any measurement up or down just by changing the unit's prefix. For length, that unit is the meter. For mass, it's the gram. And for volume, most people use the liter. Well, you could measure length with nothing but meters. But that's not very practical when we're talking about, say, the length of a human hair, or how far it is to the next town. To measure something that's much larger or smaller than a base unit, it's easier to tack on a metric prefix. The prefix creates a new unit that's a power of 10 bigger or smaller than the base unit. For example, a centimeter is 1/100th as long as a meter, perfect for measuring that hair. And 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters, ideal for measuring that road. How many prefixes are there? More than you're ever likely to use. But don't stress about learning all of them. Really, you just need to memorize the 6 most commonly used prefixes. And, lucky for you, Moby has the perfect way to do just that. Just memorize the sentence, King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. The first letter of each word stands for a different prefix, except for usually, which is just a placeholder for whatever base unit you're using. Well, we already know that kilo means 1,000 and centi means 1/100th. As for the others, hecto means 100, deca means 10, deci means 1/10, and milli means 1,000th. Notice anything about these values? Right, each prefix is exactly 10 times as big as the one to its right, and 1/10 as big as the one to its left. That makes it a breeze to convert from one unit to another. I'll show you. Let's say you want to figure out how many milligrams are in 5 hectograms. On our handy prefix line, put your finger on the unit you're starting from. Then count the number of units your finger passes while moving to the unit you're converting to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, take your number and move the decimal point the same number of places in the same direction. And you add a 0 for each place the decimal moves. There you have it. 5 hectograms is the same as 500,000 milligrams. Yes, it really is that simple. Just remember that King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk, and you're good to go. I guess this is an unusual night for King Henry.
Okay, so now that we watched through that, I just want to talk to you guys briefly for a second about the metric units of length, okay? So the units of length, the base unit for length is called the meter. So I'm sure you guys have all heard of these terms before, or some of these terms: kilometer, centimeter, millimeter. Those are definitely ones that I think that you guys would all be familiar with. Ones that you might not be so familiar with are the prefixes hecto, deca, and deci. So I wanted to put these out for you guys, and I even have this little chart here that says, just like Tim and Moby, King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. If you remember this, you guys are going to be golden for all of metric conversions, which we're going to be doing this week and next week as well, okay? So as far as units of length, I want you guys to think of a kilometer or a kilometer, tomatoes, as 1,000 meters. So a kilometer, anytime you see that prefix kilo, it means 1,000. A hectometer is 100 meters. So anytime you see that prefix hecto, it's going to be equal to 100. Decameter is equal to 10 meters. So anytime you see that prefix deca, it means 10. Now here under the word usually, it represents the base unit. That's why I have it underlined. That word usually replaces, or unit replaces usually. In this instance, because we're talking about length, the unit here is going to be meter. As you guys will see as we go through the week, all I'm going to do is change out these pink words to measure the different things that we're going to be measuring in metric units. So the base unit just means 1, and then after 1, we get into decimeters, which is 1/10. I wrote it as a decimal here for you and a fraction underneath. Centi means 1/100th, so I have it as a decimal and again as a fraction. And then milli means 1,000th, so I have it again as a decimal and then represented as a fraction. Okay, so sorry, I was playing, so ignore these. I actually wanted to just show you guys what I mean by when I said place value, okay? So if you guys think of this as the ones place, notice how I have a 1 in that place. This is the tens, hundreds. Sorry, it's going to be a little messed up. Thousands. Over here you would have the tenths. Then you would have the hundredths. And then you would have the thousands. Okay, if you guys think about it like this, that's what I was saying before when we're talking about this as place value. Maybe. There we go. Okay, if you think about it as place value, it'll be a lot clearer for you guys to see it this way, okay? So the prefix deca, 10, hecto, 100, kilo, 1,000, deci, 1/10, centi, 100th, milli, 1,000th. So I want to just do a couple of problems with you guys. I know we're not on conversions yet, but for you to really understand the metric units of length and what's coming up in our quiz in just a minute is I want to just show you guys what this would look like. So insert rows below. Let me stretch this out a little bit. Nope. I want to stretch out just this box. There we go. Maybe. Ah. Oh, y'all. Technology. Okay, here we go. It's fine. I stretched it out. Okay, so if I wanted to look at this, let's say I have, hypothetically speaking, let's say I have, let's say I have 6 meters. 6 meters. And I wanted to know how many centimeters that is. All I have to do, because if you notice, we're multiplying by 10 here when we go up. This would be this times 10 times 10 times 10. 1 times 10 is 10. 10 times 10, 100. 100 times 10, 1,000. And then the opposite direction would be dividing. 1,000 divided by 10 is 100. 100 divided by 10 is 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. So it just kind of works out because it goes by powers of 10. So if I had 6 meters, how I would use this chart to help me convert is I would put a 6 in whatever unit I have. In this instance, I happen to have just meters, which is the base unit, meter. It's right here. So I would put a 6 in this place. So technically, I have a decimal point after that 6, but I'm going to end up moving that. So I want to go from meters to centimeters, so I have to add a 0 here. I have to add a 0 here because this is the centimeter column, but I'm going to stop in this column because I've started at my meter and I wanted to go to centimeter. So at my starting value is where I started. My ending value now, because I've added all these zeros, is where I've ended. So therefore, 6 meters is equivalent to 600 centimeters. Okay, we're going to do a lot more with this over the next couple of days as far as conversions with the metric system, but for today let's just talk a little bit more about the different units. Okay, so again, biggest thing I need you guys to remember, kilometer, kilo, the prefix is the largest unit. It is 1,000, okay? So because it's the largest unit, when we're talking about length, I want you guys to kind of think about a kilometer or a kilometer as kind of like a mile. It is not the same as a mile. I don't want you to think that in any instance, but I do want you to think about them both because they are the largest units of length as measuring distance. Okay, so if I was trying to travel from here to Florida and I was using the metric system to figure out how long the distance was, I would definitely use kilometers or kilometers to measure that distance. Okay, so I want you guys to think kilo distance. Okay, hectometer would be 100. I don't have anything specifically that I want you guys to be thinking of for that. The base unit of a meter, I want you guys to think about a meter as sort of like a yard. Okay, so yards, remember, we use them. I think a meter is actually just slightly smaller, slightly shorter than a yard, or it's slightly larger by 3 inches. I'll have to fact check that, but it's either slightly shorter or slightly larger. And you guys, because they're two totally different systems, you can't convert from one to the other. So they're not going to be exact, but I want you to visualize a yardstick. So roughly 3 feet if you're trying to visualize what a meter is, okay? And then a centimeter is, if you guys have a standard ruler at home, this would be a great time to pause this video and go and grab that. If you went to grab your ruler, if you notice on one side it is measuring in inches, and on the other side it is actually centimeters. So that unit, that ruler, is actually a tool that you can use for both the customary system and the metric system. So if you guys look at how small 1 centimeter is, that is 1/100th of a meter. Okay, so it would take 100 of those centimeters to be equivalent to 1 meter. All right, let's look at our quiz. I'm going to use this again in a second. So let's look at this. Okay, so it's saying to us, which is the most appropriate unit to measure the length of a soccer field? Ooh, soccer fields. I think sporting fields. I think yards if I was using the customary system. And if you guys remember a minute ago, I said one of these units is going to be used to measure or be similar to a yard. Okay, so let's look through these. We have kilometer. Kilometer, the prefix kilo stands for 1,000. That measures distance. That would be 1,000 meters. That's huge. I don't think that's going to be what we're going to use to measure the soccer field. Now, could a soccer field maybe be a kilometer? Possibly. But remember, when we're looking for the appropriate unit, we want to go a little bit smaller, okay? The meter is the base unit, and I want you guys to think about it as roughly 3 feet, okay, or a yard. A centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. That's tiny. Think about that ruler going back to that centimeter. That's really, really small. And a millimeter is 1/1000th. That is like teensy. If you actually look at your centimeter, there is 10 little lines in between 1 centimeter. That's your millimeter. So that's how small that is. It's like the length of the depth of one of your fingernails. It's that skinny, okay? So the most appropriate unit for this would be the meter, because we want to think about yards and meters as being similar in length, okay? The next one says, which is the most appropriate unit to measure the length of a car trip? So they're saying if we got in our car and we traveled from here down to visit my dad in Georgia, it would take us a long time. It's about 18 hours in the car without traffic and without stopping. So that's a long distance. It's really, really far. If we work from the bottom up here, remember the millimeter is about the depth of your fingernail. It's really small. Would you want to measure the distance from here to Georgia using just the depth of your fingernail? Absolutely not. That would not be appropriate. A centimeter is also, it's really, really small. The meter would be about a yardstick. Again, super small. The best option here would be the kilometer, which is equivalent to 1,000 meters. So that's our best choice. Remember, kilometer is also what we want to think about for distance. Okay, the next one, they're saying for us to find the missing number. So we have 1 meter is equivalent to how many centimeters? Well, let's look at that. We're going to pull this up here, and we have 1 meter. So I'm going to put my 1 in this column because that's where I'm starting. And I'm going from meters to centimeters. So I have to add a 0 here. I have to add a 0 here. I'm starting with 1 meter. I want to end with centimeters, so I have value now in all those places. 1 meter is equivalent to 100 centimeters, okay? So if we look here, we have D, 100 centimeters. The next one is asking us what the length of this key is to the nearest centimeter. So if I look, they did a great job of lining it up at the end, which would be 0. When I was saying to you guys before about the centimeters, if you notice in between here, there's about 5, this would be 5, this would be 10, that would be your millimeters, those little tiny lines in there. So if we look at this, our line, is it closest to 5 centimeters or 6 centimeters? This would be halfway, so I would say it's going to be closer to C, 6 centimeters. And then our last question says, which is the most reasonable estimate for the height of Aon Center in Chicago, one of the tallest buildings in the world? So we have 346 centimeters. Centimeters is smaller than 1 whole meter. It's really, really small. Then we have decimeters, meters, and kilometers. Remember, kilometers is 1,000 meters. So that would be like saying this would be 346,000 meters. That's really, really high. And I understand that this is one of the tallest buildings in the world, but I think that might just be a little bit too high. 346 meters is, I think, going to be the most appropriate unit. I could be wrong on this one. It might end up being kilometers, but we're going to go with meters because I think that's going to be the best because it's not distance. We're still measuring height here. So fingers crossed. Drum roll, please. And we've got them all correct, okay? So what you guys are going to do is you are going to work on your P page for this. We are on P14-6. I will have it attached here for you guys. It's not going to have you really do any conversions, but if you do, I am also going to attach this for you guys. If you want to print it out, or even if you just copy this on paper, it will make your life so much easier. Even if you just write King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk, and then just write the values underneath, 1,000, 100, 10, 1, 1/10, 100th, 1/1000th. You guys will be able to convert no problem from there, okay? If you have any questions or if you need any assistance while you're working on this, please reach out to me via messages on Class Dojo. I will be on standby, happy to help, happy to answer any questions that you may have. I miss you guys. I'm proud of you guys. Have a great day.